The woman arrived at the edge of the field at dusk, carrying nothing but a tattered suitcase and a small jar of soil from her childhood garden. The land stretched endlessly, brown, barren, humming faintly with the sound of wind passing over what once might have been life. Her name was Mara. No one had spoken it in years. She set down the suitcase and knelt. The earth was dry, but it trembled softly, as if some memory still slept beneath it. She pressed her palm to the ground and whispered, "I remember." That was the beginning. The soil shifted under her touch. A shimmer rose, thin as breath, and in the fading light, a single brick appeared. Pale, translucent, pulsing faintly like the heart of a firefly. She smiled, small, tired, knowing. Each memory, she knew, would become part of the house. Each loss, a foundation stone. That night, she slept beside the first brick, listening to the whispering hum that came from it. It sounded like her mother's voice, singing softly, though she could no longer remember the tune. By morning, the wind had changed. The field was colder, and beside her, the brick had begun to fade. Still, she whispered to herself, "I will build it again tomorrow." Mara began building at dawn. Her hands trembled as she touched the earth again, summoning memory after memory. The second brick came from the scent of rain on the porch the summer she turned 12. The third, her father's laughter, deep and sudden, when she spilled paint on the dog. The fourth, her sister's hand gripping hers the day they ran away from home, just for an hour, but long enough to feel free. Each one appeared shimmering and fragile, pale as frozen glass. By nightfall, a low wall curved before her, humming softly, alive with light. She ran her fingertips along it, feeling warmth where her father's voice still echoed. But as the moon rose, something strange began to happen. The bricks near the ground flickered, faintly. A few turned gray around the edges. The laughter dulled. The smell of rain faded. Mara leaned close, whispering desperately, "No, no, no, not yet." The wall responded. A low creak, like wood shifting in wind. And then another sound. A knock. It came from inside the half-built wall. She froze. The sound came again, gentle but deliberate, 3 slow taps, as if someone were waiting to be let out. She pressed her ear against the bricks, heart racing. A whisper came through, faint as breath on glass. "Do you remember me?" But the voice was not her father's, nor her mother's, nor her sister's. It was one she had hoped never to hear again. Mara stayed very still, her breath clouding against the cold, flickering bricks. The voice on the other side whispered again, this time lower, closer. "You built me wrong, Mara." Her throat tightened. She took a step back, the hem of her dress brushing against the grass that wasn't really grass anymore. It was soft and pale, like faded photographs ground to dust. "I didn't build you," she said softly. "I built memories." The wall pulsed once, the light inside flaring white. Then dark. Every memory she'd placed there, the laughter, the rain, the warmth, collapsed into a quiet, cold silence. And then, a hand pressed through the bricks. Not flesh, not shadow. Something between. It was made of thin, trembling light, the shape of a memory too broken to fully form. Mara stumbled back, shaking. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. The hand reached outward, brushing her sleeve. Wherever it touched, her mind blurred. The scent of rain vanished entirely. Her father's laughter grew distant, muffled, as though drowned beneath water. "You invited me," the voice said. "Every time you remembered, I followed." Mara backed away until her heels struck the suitcase she'd carried here. It toppled, spilling its contents, a handful of trinkets, letters, a faded photograph of a boy she once knew. She stared at it. Then she understood. The voice was his. The one she'd buried in the back of her mind. The one who had died before she could say goodbye. And now, in her house of remembering, he had found a way back. Mara did not sleep that night. She sat by the wall, clutching the photograph, listening to the whisper drift in and out like the tide. "You left me," it said. You promised you'd remember. I did, she murmured, voice cracking. I built all of this to remember. But the wall only flickered in reply. From the cracks, dust fell like gray snow. She noticed then one of the lower bricks had shifted. Beneath it, an outline was forming a frame, faint and rectangular.
A door.
No, she said aloud. No door. The wall didn't listen. The shape deepened with each heartbeat, the mortar rippling as if alive. From inside, something thudded softly, slow, deliberate. Knock. 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 Mara stumbled backward. You're not real, she told the air. You're not supposed to come through. You made me real, the voice replied. Every time you remembered my name. Her grip on the photograph tightened until it tore. The half-smiling face in the picture split down the middle. She could almost smell him then, cedarwood and smoke, the faint scent of fire that never truly burned out. A sudden gust swept through the field, lifting dust and whispers into the night. The half-built house moaned under the wind's weight, the memories inside straining to hold their form. And as the wind howled, the door finally took shape, complete, solid, trembling slightly in its frame. It had no handle, no keyhole. Just a single phrase carved into its surface in words that shimmered faintly like veins of light. Remember me. Mara pressed her forehead against the door. It was warm, and she whispered the words that would change everything. I already do. The door swung open. The air on the other side of the door was colder, wet, heavy, almost breathing. Mara stepped through and found herself in a corridor lined with photographs. None of them were hers. Children she didn't know played in sunlight she'd never seen. A woman with her face but not her eyes stood beside a man in a soldier's uniform, smiling softly. A dog barked in one picture. She could hear it echo faintly in the stillness, though its mouth was frozen open. She whispered, "Whose memories are these?" The walls hummed low, as if remembering too much hurt them. She reached toward one photograph. Her fingertips brushed the image, and a rush of sensation swallowed her whole. Laughter that wasn't hers. Pain that wasn't hers. A life that could have been hers if she'd made different choices. She yanked her hand back with a gasp. The photograph surface had smudged where she touched it, and her name, her real name, had begun to appear in the corner in curling script. The house doesn't want to be yours, the voice said softly behind her. It wants to be everyone's. It feeds on the forgotten. She turned, but the corridor had changed. The door she'd come through was gone, replaced by a blank wall that pulsed faintly with light. The voice came again, closer now, echoing from the hall's end. You built a home for ghosts, Mara. You gave us a place to stay. Her heart pounded. Then what am I? She whispered. There was a pause, then laughter, tender and cruel. You're the only one still alive enough to decay. The photographs began to ripple, faces dissolving into ash. One by one, the walls began to breathe faster. And for the first time, Mara realized. The house wasn't made from her memories. It was remembering her back. Mara ran. Her footsteps echoed down corridors that folded and stretched, as if the house itself were exhaling in long, ragged breaths. The walls shimmered, rooms blinked in and out of existence, flickering between her memories and others. A kitchen appeared before her, then vanished. For a moment she smelled cinnamon and heard her mother humming. And then, just as quickly, a different woman screamed from the same spot. Mara clutched her head. Stop it. Stop showing me what isn't mine. But the house didn't stop. The floor beneath her feet rippled like liquid. She saw flashes of her own life dissolving. Her first kiss, her sister's wedding, her father's last letter. All slipping away, brick by brick, memory by memory. Each time she forgot something, the walls grew stronger. Each lost fragment became another part of the structure. The voice, his voice, echoed from everywhere now, deep and hollow. You thought you were the builder, but the house was always building you. Mara stumbled into what looked like a doorway, gasping for air. On the other side lay a room she recognized, her old bedroom, down to the crooked lamp and the crack in the window pane. Relief flooded her for a moment. But when she approached the bed, she froze. Someone was lying in it. A woman. Pale, still, eyes closed. Her own face. "I told you," the voice whispered gently, right beside her ear now. "You can't remember forever. Sooner or later, the memories start remembering themselves." The figure in the bed opened its eyes. And they were hollow. The two of them stared at each other. One standing, trembling and half-forgotten, the other lying still beneath a quilt that seemed woven from light and dust. Mara took a hesitant step closer. The other's eyes tracked her, perfectly mirrored. Her voice, Mara's voice, rose from the bed, soft and calm, as though speaking through water. "You've been wandering too long. Come rest." Mara shook her head. "You're not me." "Not anymore," the other replied, sitting up slowly. "You gave me all I needed. Your sorrow, your stories, the pieces you couldn't bear to keep." Mara's gaze darted around the room. The walls were changing again. The wallpaper rippled, showing faint scenes, Mara's childhood birthdays, her mother combing her hair, the last time she'd held the boy's hand before the accident. Each memory glowed for a moment, then burned out like old film left in sunlight. "Why are you doing this?" she cried. "Because you asked the house to remember," the double said gently. And it did. But memories don't want to stay still, Mara. They want to live, to breathe, to become real. The double rose from the bed, barefoot, the hem of her dress trailing motes of light. The air hummed between them, a sound that seemed to come from every brick in the house. Mara stumbled backward. "If you're me, then what am I?" The double smiled, a slow, sorrowful curve of lips. "You're what's left over." With that, she reached out and touched Mara's cheek. The contact burned cold. In that instant, Mara saw flashes of her own life collapsing inward. The field, the suitcase, even the feel of her own name unraveling into dust. When she blinked, she was standing alone. The bed was empty, but the house, her house, was whispering her name again. Only now it wasn't a plea. It was a claim. Mara ran her fingers along the walls, whispering the names of the memories they held. Her father, her sister, the boy she lost, trying to call them back, to anchor them. But the more she spoke, the more the walls fed. Each name made the bricks glow brighter, then fade to black. She fell to her knees, gasping. "If I can't keep you, I'll destroy you." The house laughed softly around her, the sound like wood bending before it breaks. "You think fire forgets?" it murmured. "Fire remembers everything it touches." Still, she searched for the matches in her suitcase. Her hands trembled as she struck one. The tiny flame wavered, gold and shaking, alive, like a heartbeat. She pressed it to the wall. The light spread fast, too fast. The flame turned blue, devouring the air, the floor, the ceiling. But when the smoke cleared, the house stood untouched. No scorch marks, no scent of burning. Instead, where she'd lit the fire, a new room had appeared. Its doorway pulsed faintly. Inside, shadows moved, slow and deliberate. She heard the faint crackle of a fire that wasn't there, and a low voice, the boy's voice, calling from within. "Come inside, Mara. You can't destroy memories. You can only join them." She backed away, clutching the matchbox to her chest. "No," she whispered. "You're not real." The doorway widened. The floor trembled beneath her feet, as though something vast were shifting below the surface of her own mind. And then she saw it, etched above the new door, in the same trembling light as before. "Welcome home." The fire had not destroyed the house. It had finished it. The house was silent now. Too silent, like the pause between a heartbeat and its echo. Mara stood before the new doorway, the one the fire had birthed. The words "welcome home" pulsed faintly, like breath beneath skin. She reached out, her fingers trembling, and the air around the door grew warm, almost gentle. A strange calm settled over her. She was tired of running, tired of remembering and forgetting in equal measure. So she stepped through. The room beyond was vast, larger than the field itself, filled with a dim golden light. And at its center hung something that looked like a heart, enormous, suspended, beating slowly. But instead of blood, it pulsed with images, flashes of every memory she had ever loved, every regret she had buried. The first time she heard her mother cry. The laughter of her sister as they ran through storm puddles. The boy's hand slipping from hers beneath dark water. All of it there, alive, shimmering. "This is where they live," said the voice. Not cruel this time. Tender, almost mournful. "Everything you built had to go somewhere." Mara stepped closer. "So it's my heart then," she whispered. "No," said the voice. "It's ours." The air thickened. Faces began to emerge from the glowing surface, her family, her lost love, even her own reflection, each one breathing, watching her. They looked peaceful, complete. But as she reached toward them, something shifted. The light flickered, the heart convulsed, and for the first time, she heard it crack. A jagged line of shadow split through the room. The faces twisted, melting into one another, whispering words she couldn't understand. "They're fading," the voice said. "If you leave now, they'll vanish forever. If you stay, you'll keep them alive." Mara's pulse quickened. "You mean I'll be trapped?" "You'll belong," the voice corrected softly. The golden light dimmed, and the floor began to tremble again, urging her to decide. To flee while she still remembered her name, or stay and never forget again. The tremor deepened, shaking dust from the unseen ceiling. The heart pulsed faster now, ragged and desperate, spilling light like a wound. Mara pressed her palms against her ears, trying to block the whispering voices that poured from its surface. Her mother, her sister, the boy, even her own laughter, all begging, pleading, "Don't go." Her chest ached. "You're not real," she told them. But the lie quivered in her mouth. She could still feel her sister's hand, small and warm, gripping hers from inside the light. "Please," the boy's voice murmured. "If you stay, we stay. If you leave, we die again." Mara closed her eyes. She wanted to run. She wanted to burn it all down. But what would be left of her? Out there in the cold. A woman with no one to remember? No home, no names, just empty rooms in her head? She took a trembling breath. "If I stay," she whispered, "do I keep them? Or do they keep me?" The voice, the one that had haunted her since the wall, answered gently. "There is no difference anymore." The floor stilled. The air went quiet, expectant. And Mara stepped forward. The light from the heart reached for her, wrapping around her like ribbons of gold and shadow. It was warm, so warm it hurt. She could hear them laughing again, could feel their presence filling her chest like breath after drowning. For a single, perfect instant, everything was whole. Then the light folded inward. And Mara was gone. In her place, a new brick shimmered into existence on the wall just outside the heart room, pale, translucent, softly humming. Inside it, a voice whispered, "I remember." The house exhaled, settling into stillness. And somewhere far away, a field of barren soil stirred. As if waiting for someone new to remember again, years or moments passed. Time meant little to the house. It pulsed in rhythm only with remembering. The field grew wild again. Grass taller than a child's shoulders waved under gray skies, and the soil hummed faintly at dusk. The heart of the house still beat somewhere beneath it all, steady, patient. Then one evening, footsteps broke the silence. A man, young, thin, and tired in the eyes, walked into the clearing. His coat was torn, and he carried a bundle of letters pressed close to his chest. He stopped when he saw the faint shimmer rising from the ground. "What's this?" he whispered, brushing away the tall grass. His fingers touched something smooth, translucent. A wall, buried but not dead. He leaned closer. The bricks were warm, and faintly, from somewhere deep inside, a woman's voice murmured, "Do you remember?" He jerked back. The letters slipped from his hands, scattering across the dirt. One blew open. A photograph inside, worn and yellowed. A face. Her face. Mara. The man blinked hard, confused. He didn't know her, he was sure of it. But something in him twisted, a strange ache behind the ribs, as though he'd once said her name in another life. He touched the wall again. "Who are you?" The ground shivered. The wall rose higher, forming the faint curve of a doorway. A pulse of golden light flickered behind it, then faded. He should have run. He didn't. Instead, he knelt and whispered to the soil. The same way Mara once had. "I remember." And in the still air, a single new brick appeared. The man worked in silence for days.
He didn't know why.
He only knew the pull, the same ancient whisper that had haunted the edges of his dreams. Each morning, he would place his palms against the earth and speak a memory. The first, his mother's lullaby. The second, the sound of rain against tin. The third, a woman's laugh, low and familiar, though he couldn't remember whose. Each word shimmered into form, becoming a brick in the half-buried structure. The house was remembering again. But he didn't notice the faint pulse of light that followed him everywhere, echoing with every heartbeat he gave away. And deep inside the foundation, within the walls where no sunlight reached, something began to stir. A voice, faint as a sigh. "Mara." At first it was only a flicker, her shadow passing through the seams of the walls. But as his memories fed the structure, her outline grew stronger, taking shape behind the thin skin of light that separated the world of the living from the world of what once was. She could hear him, feel him. Each word he spoke burned through her like warmth returning to frozen skin. "You shouldn't have come here," she whispered, though he couldn't hear. The house never forgets. It only replaces. One evening, the man paused in his work. He felt the sudden chill of breath against his neck, though the wind had gone still. He turned. There, just beyond the glow of the half-built wall, stood a woman, her outline faint, her eyes full of sorrow. "Do I know you?" he asked quietly. Mara's voice trembled, carried on the sighing hum of the bricks.
"You did. Once.
When we still had names." The man blinked, confused. "What are you?" She reached out, her fingers made of light and dust. A memory that refused to die. And somewhere beneath them, the heart of the house began to beat again, slowly, steadily. Hungry, a tea first, it was small things. The man would wake and forget what day it was. Then he'd lose the melody of his mother's lullaby. By the third night, he couldn't remember his own name. Each forgotten thing left a shimmer in the air, a spark of gold that drifted toward the walls and sank into them. The house fed quietly, grateful. And Mara watched. She was stronger now, able to move through the rooms like a ghost, made of breath and memory. But the stronger she became, the weaker he grew. Every piece he lost filled the hollow places within her. She tried to speak to him in dreams. "Stop building. Leave before it's too late." But he never heard her. Or perhaps he didn't want to. Sometimes, he'd whisper to the empty air, "I just need one more memory. Then it'll be done." He said it like a promise, like a prayer. The heart of the house beat faster each day, and its pulse matched hers, thump for thump, sorrow for sorrow. She felt it, deep in the marrow of her being. The house didn't want to build her anymore. It wanted to keep her. That night, when he lit a candle and pressed his hand to the wall, she appeared beside him. Fully this time, her shape solid, her eyes shimmering with both light and despair. "Mara," he breathed, though he didn't know how he knew her name. She stepped closer. "If you keep going, you'll disappear. The house will make you its memory, as it did me." He smiled faintly. "Then I'll never be forgotten." She wanted to scream, to shake him, to undo the spell she herself had once whispered. But she couldn't, because deep down she understood. To remember is to cling. To cling is to rot. The candle guttered. The shadows lengthened. And as he touched her hand, a thread of light passed between them, his last, truest memory. Her heart broke as it entered her. His eyes went blank. The house sighed, pleased. Mara stood in the dark, the man's body folded gently at her feet, his face calm, as if sleeping. The candle had long since died. The house glowed faintly from within, fed, satisfied. She wanted to cry, but tears no longer came. Only light, small, trembling streams of gold leaked from her eyes, sliding down her cheeks before sinking into the floor. The walls drank them greedily, and as they did, she felt the shift. Something vast and slow stirred beneath the foundation, the mind of the house awakening. Every wall, every heartbeat of glowing mortar, whispered in 1,000 half-familiar voices. You built us to remember, but you never asked what we remember of you. Mara backed away. You can't have anything left. You've taken it all, every moment, every face. The walls rippled, brightening until the light was unbearable. And in that brightness, she saw them. All the lives the house had swallowed. Dozens, hundreds, each trapped in their final moment of memory, looping endlessly, whispering, pleading. She pressed her hands to her head. Stop. Stop, please. One last thing, the house breathed. One memory remains. And then she understood. It wasn't the man's memories it wanted now. It wanted hers, the last memory of what it meant to forget. The first morning she built the house. The first whisper of, I remember. The one thing that had started it all. If it took that, she would vanish completely and no one, not even the house, would know she'd ever lived. She fell to her knees, shaking. If I let you take it, you'll forget me too.
The house pulsed once, slow, certain.
That is the mercy. And for a long, trembling moment, Mara almost agreed. The light filled everything now, soft, endless, white as breath on glass. The walls shivered like a great living lung, waiting. Mara stood in the center of the room that had once been her heart. The air trembled with all the voices of the house, her mother, her sister, the boy, the stranger, each one whispering, stay. But beneath them was a quieter voice, a child's voice, thin and wavering. Her own. You don't have to remember, it said. You can let it go. She closed her eyes. For the first time in what felt like centuries, she was not afraid. She thought of the barren field at dusk, the jar of soil in her hand, the first whisper she'd spoken into the ground. She remembered how it had felt, lonely but beautiful, the ache of wanting something to last. And she realized the cruel truth. It never could. Nothing ever does. She smiled, softly, sadly, and placed her palm against the nearest wall. I release you, she whispered. I release myself. The house screamed, not in anger, but in mourning. The bricks cracked, the light fractured into 1,000 ribbons, and every trapped memory shattered into dust. The great heart in the center of the house gave one final, fading pulse, and then went still. When the dust cleared, there was only the field again. Empty. Silent. The air smelled faintly of rain. The house was gone. No walls, no doors, no voices. Only a single brick lay in the grass, pale, translucent, and humming faintly, like a lullaby half-remembered. Then slowly, even that sound faded. By morning, it had turned to soil, and the wind, gentle and curious, carried away the last whisper of her name. A sound no one would ever remember, and no one would ever need to.